hey, we talked with the community association about a lot of things, and we get nowhere with them. They don't really do things. So I thought, well, we'll just do this ourselves. So, it's like, oh, we're everybody. Their concerns. We just want to be in on the conversation.
Are you paid?
I am. Nice to meet you. You're welcome. I was wondering who was looking at my so much. So we got everybody here. Let's get started. For those of you I didn't talk to, I'm Kate Conrad, and I started this party. So I'm glad everybody came tonight. And the reason that this came up is that I started hearing, that we're going to have some changes to 2nd and 3rd Avenue. We've already had experienced some changes on White Boulevard and Bridgewood because of the traffic situation on 1st Avenue. So anytime there are changes to 1st and 2nd Avenue or 3rd Avenue, it spills over to our neighborhood too. And so my hope in getting people together tonight was that we would address this as a neighborhood rather than, trying to address it as individuals, and try to come up with some solutions, working with city officials that make all of us feel good about the outcome. So I don't have any particular agenda about what I want to happen. I don't want anybody going 50 miles an hour up my street anymore, which happens every day in the morning and at night.
Amen.
People are now commuting on Blake Boulevard. I really don't want my truck to be
I was flying.
So I think what we want to do is kind of introduce our city officials to the neighborhood because they're not really that familiar with it. Talk about, walk around a little bit and talk about the character of this neighborhood and who we are and what we're doing here. But feel free if you've got, issues or an agenda that you want to talk about, jump in. Like I said, I'm not in charge of anything. I just want to get the word out there and say, let's get together and figure out what we can affect. So, let's introduce our city officials. You want to introduce yourselves? Sure, great. Go ahead.
My name's Ron Griffith, and I've been with the city for 15 years. I'm in the traffic engineering division, project engineer. I am involved with some of the one-way to two-way discussions, talking about 2nd Avenue, 3rd Avenue, 4th and 5th Avenue. So you can't ask me about that. And again, our primary focus is with kind of developing concept plans for new roadway projects. We also look at traffic signals, neighborhood traffic issues as well is something we deal with.
Can I interrupt for a second?
Sure.
It's very hard to hear with all this loud traffic right now. Can you move
down a little? Go back for Dayton.
Yeah.
Sure, go ahead. Start over.
I get a second chance there, right? Introducing myself. All right. Again, my name is Ron Griffith. I work for the City of Cedar Rapids in the Traffic Engineering Division. I've been with the city for 15 years, worked the same job for 15 years. I'm a project engineer. One of the projects that I'm involved in is some of the layout or discussion about the conversion of both 2nd and 3rd Avenue. So I am a little bit familiar with that, and we can certainly have a good discussion about that. Also involved in terms of traffic signals and traffic signal network. One of the newer issues that we're trying to deal with is a lot of in terms of the neighborhood, speeding issues, traffic calming, that sort of thing. Something that we kind of done our first demonstration project up in another neighborhood on the northeast side, and we're looking at how well that turns out. Do we expand that in other areas? It was, if any of you are familiar with Boyson Road and C Avenue, there's a street called Brentwood Drive, and it's kind of a diagonal street. Not quite. It kind of is not quite diagonal, but a lot of people use that to avoid the traffic on Boyson and the traffic on Council, and it's a very narrow street, a lot narrower than this. And
it's an old scope.
They have a lot of hills.
Routes you from C Avenue over to Byward.
And you talk about vehicles being run into. They actually have had houses run into from cars going down the hill and not making the curve and going straight ahead through there. So
Been there, done that.
yeah, we implemented. The city bought basically 6 portable, what we call speed cushions. We put out 5 of them in the neighborhood, and we're looking at how well that actually addresses some of the neighborhood traffic issues there. we haven't had a chance to get back to them. We're going to get back to them next month to talk about is it successful? Is it an awful idea? So we're interested to hear the feedback from the neighborhood exactly how successful we were with that project.
Okay, what's a speed cushion?
A speed cushion is it's almost like have you heard of a speed hump?
Oh, speed bump.
A speed bump is for us, and I'm sorry, this is the traffic. I'll try to speak more in layman terms.
It doesn't knock you out of your car.
It's like what's over by Mount Mercy.
A speed bump.
Elementary school.
Yeah, the speed bump is really small. Yeah, if you what's by Roosevelt, so that would be more like a speed hump.
Okay.
Actually, that's called what we call a speed table because it's wider, so pedestrians can go across. I know, too many terms. Exactly. The speed cushion has gaps in it, so that fire trucks can go through it. So it's basically we took a speed hump and we put tracks that are wide enough that just a fire truck can get through, but most vehicles can't do that. They have to go over one of the humps. Does that make sense?
How do you collect data on this?
We actually have devices that we can put out in the street that measure the speed of the vehicles. It also measures how many vehicles. It can tell you whether you have cars, buses, trucks, and they're really not very. They're kind of discreet, so you really don't notice them. They're fairly small.
Do you do it before and after?
Yes. Yeah, we did. Anytime we have a neighborhood traffic issue, then one of the first things we want to do is we want to go out and actually collect data, because that helps us. We'll talk to the neighborhood. We actually had several meetings before we implemented anything. We actually let the neighborhood. We threw out some ideas. We said, okay, this is what they're doing in other cities, and these are what they found to be successful. And then we let kind of the neighborhood, had an interactive discussion and really let them make the decision and kind of agree on what we were doing. And we didn't have complete agreement, but they were willing to move forward with the project. And we'll go back to them again and we'll have a similar discussion and see whether, okay, what we tried, some things worked, some things didn't. We need to make adjustments. Let them offer suggestions on how to make adjustments.
What are the plans for the 2nd and 3rd Avenue for the near future?
Do we want to first let Tom introduce and then we can...
Oh, no.
Actually, I don't know. I will address your question.
I'm Tom Peterson. I'm the outgoing city traffic engineer. I'll be here just another one more day and then I'm leaving the city. So Ron will be the interim city traffic engineer, division manager. But I came out here to help just knowing there might be a large group. If there's questions that I can certainly help with on this, to help Ron out, to provide much experience and expertise in this area. So I'm just here to help you out and collect notes and comments so that we feel free to talk to each other tomorrow and get some ideas on what the issues are and possibilities.
It'd be nice to know what your plans are. I mean, you're giving us all this stuff, but what's going to happen 2nd and 3rd Ave?
Good question. And I don't know how closely you guys follow the council infrastructure meetings. They have monthly meetings. There's I think 5 different council committees that meet on a regular basis. We generally go to the infrastructure committee meetings. So at the last 2 infrastructure committee meetings, we presented a plan on the one-way to two-way conversion, which shows the time frame in terms of the conversion. So right now, this section of 2nd and 3rd are scheduled to be converted in 2017.
Conversion? What are you talking about?
Conversion is from one-way to two-way.
Okay, so nobody knew that. I didn't know that, and I'm right off of 3rd Ave, and that affects me, and I think it sucks. It's a stupid idea. You guys screwed up down there by building a new thing, the hospital, and you screwed it totally up, and now you want to screw it up here. Right.
These guys have nothing to do with that. The engineers have nothing to do with the traffic plan.
It doesn't matter. They work for the city.
Well, they do, but I think we probably ought to lay some ground rules about civil interaction. They did come out to talk with us to try to engage us to be part of the decision-making process. I'm mad about PCI too. I will never stop being mad about PCI, but that's not going to change what's slated to happen. We do have an opportunity to change and have some input on what's going to happen with this project. So I hope we can all engage in a way that...
The problem is right now, these people do not travel 30. Seriously. Cop sits on my corner almost every week. Do you know how fast you have to be going before you get pulled over? He'll tell you 47. It's the only amount of ticket worth a residential neighborhood for him to get out of his car. 17 miles an hour over the speed limit is substantial enough that it's a nice, pretty ticket, especially in a residential neighborhood. 17 over is pretty pricey. We've had 4 cars on Ridgewood Terrace totaled, mind you, and this is a half-ton pickup truck by a car.
While they were parked.
Why I was parked in front of my house. We had a high-speed chase that totaled 3 neighbors' cars, well, 2 neighbors' cars and an SUV on the street. So, I mean, if that's what's going on with it one way, what's going to happen when you turn these streets into 2-way traffic streets? And the speed, hello, he's not doing 30. You know, I mean, you can stand out here and you can watch him. We've got doctors that go down to the PCI building every day. One of them drives this really nice Cobra that does about 45 down Blake. I mean, they're speeding as it is now. And these are direct routes back and forth. You're not having to deal with very many stop signs, 2-ways, turns, or anything. So,
Well, that's part of the issue is when you have a one-way street like this, you don't have to worry about traffic coming the other direction. It's all going the same direction. So that's the easiest way to speed that's your biggest comfort level is there's no one coming the other way. I'm going with everybody else. It's pretty much a free flow.
Except part of the problem is that they shoot off to avoid.
That's all of them, yeah.
I'm on Blake. She's on Ridgeway. They cut through. They use us to cut through.
Diagonal.
I don't see where making these 2-way streets is going to stop that, slow that down, or anything. In fact, I think it may even increase it. Because they'll be doing it from both directions instead of just one. Because right now what we get is off of 3rd. We don't get it off of 2nd.
It's almost like if you're going downtown and this is a 2-way and that's a 2-way, why would you ever travel on 2nd Avenue? Right. Because you don't get anywhere.
yeah, you can't go anywhere.
Use 2nd Avenue still?
I mean, if you're going to downtown now, why would you travel on 2nd Avenue?
2nd Avenue
Yes,
it up.
But now you're not even getting traveling this way because now they've got to go around blocks. So at least you get a little bit of traffic.
Well, 3rd Avenue was 2-way. 1st Avenue at 4 o'clock in the afternoon is a nightmare. If there was at least 3rd Avenue at least went both ways.
Then you have some of the PCI traffic coming up.
2nd Avenue.
Sure.
My question is that if there's this ongoing project around wanting to convert the 2 streets, what's driving that? Who brought that up? Who proposed it? And what kind of information has been provided to the residents around that this project is even ongoing? Because I've only lived here for a year on 2nd Avenue right down there, and I guess I'd like to understand that because that's not something I've heard. And you're right, I don't follow the infrastructure committees. I'm sorry.
Sure. And the debate about the 1-ways to 2-ways has been going on since I've been with the city. I mean, it's been a constant discussion, and mainly it's been focused around downtown. Is that the consultants have come in and looked at, what things would people complain about the most when they're in downtown, and it's the 1-way street system, and that's confusing. It's hard to get to your destination.
You guys get a lot of complaints about the 2nd
because you have to
Avenue.
circle the block, or we have people that are driving the wrong way on the 1-way streets because they're confused when they're down there.
Way up here.
Well, that's that's the challenge of when you convert it in pieces, that you're going to have even more people.
Well, what would be the benefit though of 2nd Avenue since it dead ends right into that building?
The 3rd is what? Once they convert 3rd, then everybody will use 3rd, and 3rd will just get going.
Are you looking to make 3rd Avenue an alternative primary route?
No. What currently right now is proposed is to look at actually shrinking the size of the roadways. Is to actually try to calm the traffic by creating a narrower roadway space, and creating not by moving in the curves, is moving it in. And again, there's still a lot of this stuff is very preliminary, so that's why we're here, is to give you guys a chance to have some input in this.
By doing that on 2nd and 3rd, does that mean they're going to widen the streets to accommodate parking on 2nd and 3rd plus the 2-way traffic?
Right now, what's currently proposed is to not widen the street at all.
Are bike lanes
It's
involved?
actually on 3rd Avenue, not on
Bike
2nd
lanes?
Avenue. Yeah, right now. now.
Do we have any bike
So
lanes?
will there be
Yes,
room to park?
on 3rd Avenue?
No.
Yes, with and continuing to allow parking where there's currently parking on 3rd Avenue.
How about a
But not
block?
both ways.
Yeah, there's only.
No,
On one side.
there's
It's
only
only on
parking
one
on
side
really on one
now.
side right
Right.
now on 3rd. So that's going to
So
stay.
that stays, and you're adding bike lanes, and you're setting down.
Well, that's park.
I mean, one east, one and one, and a turn lane?
No turn lane. No. It's one lane in each direction.
Have you any data?
And the reason why they cut out my street now is to avoid the lights on 19th Street. So
That's,
they're going to
in
be
terms
on
of
every one of your guys'
reducing
streets.
the roadway, then when you're down to one lane each direction, in terms of slowing traffic down,
Awesome.
yes, it's proven that it'll slow
I need to
traffic
get
down.
a
You try living in this neighborhood and see what
Have you got any data on how much?
Hang on, guys, questions. Hang on. Go ahead.
Have you have any data on how many points of conflict this will create on those streets with the left-hand turns across traffic and all those spaces? Because I know from traffic engineering standpoint, that is something I think they should look at.
It will increase the numbers of points of conflict at the intersection.
And how do you evaluate that in your decision-making process?
Well, as part of the decision process, we have to look at, do we need to change the traffic control at those intersections? Do we need to look at stop signs or traffic signals? Another tool that we haven't used in Cedar Rapids is roundabouts. That's been used in other communities.
So that may
Probably not.
that may dictate a series of stop signs along 2nd and 3rd Avenues.
Yeah, I don't foresee, based on the current traffic that we have on 3rd Avenue, I don't foresee us having to make changes to the current traffic control. There are a few intersections, some of the diagonal streets that come off of especially 3rd Avenue, that we may need to look at making some future changes to those intersections, because you've got several streets that intersect really close to 3rd Avenue that can create quite a few conflict points in those areas.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Data that shows how much busier 3rd Avenue will get, because it will get unbelievably.
Congested.
Because you've got Linden Drive that is the direct access from Marion that comes right into 3rd. That's the back street to Marion, is going out 3rd and around Washington and out to East Coast. And if that traffic is coming in, it can just go straight on 3rd instead of trying to find a way to 2nd or to 1st. You're going to have, I drove it for years, and I know exactly how the Marion traffic is going to come, and it's all going to go right straight from my house.
When I live in Marion and I try to go in that area, I get lost because I don't know exactly though. But if you live there, yes. But if you're looking at Marion or traffic coming out, I've gone back to that Lindenwood area and
It's their way to get
I know, but
There is. I mean, but again, it's the only way to get it is we have the city quarter MPO has a traffic model, and the traffic model is so high up here in terms of the modeling that it looks at where people live, where the destinations are. You plug in the changes, and then it reshuffles the traffic based on where people want to go. It's very high level. When you get down to the neighborhood level, it's hard to accurately estimate the number of people who are going to make the shift. I mean, some of the things you're talking about are because you have local knowledge. A lot of the people that are driving through here do not have.
Excuse me, they are coming from
local
Marion
knowledge.
now, and they come to
Right.
2nd all the time. I mean, that's what we did for years. We always came to 2nd and went straight down. And even if you have to jog, it's still quicker to go straight down 2nd than it is to get 1st Avenue any day, any time of day.
One thing that may help is one of the things that they're considering, by going to the two-way downtown and by going to one lane in each direction all the way through downtown.
Will this be two-way all the way down to the northwest side?
It's talking about the whole thing would be converted to two-way.
Okay.
And part of that is when you talk about the confusion. If you leave sections sections that are one way, that's incredibly confusing for people that are driving around. When you talk about conflict points, people don't know which way to look, and that's where you start to have a problem with crashes. So if you're going to make the conversion, you have to look at really making it the entire length from 19th here to basically 1st Avenue on the west side. And that's what, if you look at, again, I didn't bring it, but it's on if you go to the city webpage under the City Council Infrastructure Committee, and I apologize that maybe I can get Kate the specific date, the meeting, it has the graphic which shows you the conversion plan as far as what year that's going to be converted. So basically by the end of 2017, we're looking at having all of the one-way to two-ways converted. That's what's being proposed.
So what plans are you making for pedestrian traffic?
And the park.
And the way it is now, if you try to cross 3rd Avenue at a certain time of day, you're on a suicide mission. So having, there is this kind of blinker light down at Redmond Park as you go to Park Court, and so something like that along the avenue, along 3rd and 2nd, would that help with slowing down traffic at important times?
And this, again, narrowing the lanes is something that we're looking at to help slow the traffic down. And that's something that has been proven in other communities, is that when you reduce the number of lanes, you don't have the wide roadway, you have a little bit more congestion. It does tend to slow the traffic down. The blinker light, that you're talking about right there by Redmond Park, one of the things that a new tool that the city has is we are looking at going to what's called a hawk signal. And what the hawk signal does is it actually brings up a red indication for the motorist, and actually will stop the motorist. It's not just a warning light to really warn people or warn drivers that people are crossing, because we have seen that really they get better compliance than if you had nothing there at all. So you will get some people to stop, but the hawk signal is something that we already have in town. We've seen that it is effective. People like them. It even gives you the walk indications that people like too, so you have some people.
Are you going to put more of those in? Is that what you're saying?
As of right now, it's not part of the proposal, but that's something that we can look at, is if there are other very high pedestrian crossing locations. It's something we can certainly.
Well, and there's no place to cross on 1st Avenue on 17th and 18th.
Good.
Well, that's the information we need to know, because if there are high active locations that are more concentrated with a lot more activity.
How do you not know that? So if you're looking, this is a pretty major change. Don't you analyze all that? What the impact of this is?
How do you know the future?
Well, that was one of my questions, is the city going to do a traffic impact study? Unlike, we took PCI's granted, and we didn't do our own. And number 2, these neighborhoods are built on these beautiful trees on the right-of-ways. Are they going to be taken out?
No.
The trees are staying.
Yeah, we're not. Actually, the trees are a good thing, because in terms of calming the traffic and creating more of a neighborhood feel, you want trees. I
It's just a matter of paint on the road.
Yeah, that's really what at this point we're talking about.
Changing the paint on the road.
It's changing the paint on the road. And
why so long then?
Because there's other areas that require more than just paint on the road. So, and the other thing too is, there's also looking at, for instance, 4th Avenue is one that's being resurfaced as part of the conversion process. So we need to look at areas where we need to do more than just the paint on the road. Not changing curbs, but
you don't have to change intersections. If 3rd Avenue starts going into downtown, how do you get off to Albert Avenue? If you're not going to go changing intersections.
Blake and Ridgewood have died.
Some, like Ron mentioned before, some of those off 3rd where you've got almost like 4 streets coming, at 3rd, and you got something like that. Some of those are going to have to be worked with some improvements to.
So that's more than paint.
Yes.
If anything, we're trying with this initial project is we're trying to do as little as possible to the curb and do most of it with paint. So what that does is that actually gives us the flexibility to adjust. If there are things that come up after the conversion, we want to try to catch as many things before we make a change. Obviously, so the more issues we can find out ahead of time, the more we can address it ahead of time.
Yeah, from a comparison standpoint, Cedar Rapids, everybody's going on Cedar Avenue to get past 19 when you're driving out, which is a 2-way. And you have parking on both sides. How does that compare on width and compare to what we're looking at on 2nd and 3rd?
I think Beaver is 35 foot.
Beaver doesn't have bike lanes.
35 foot, yeah. Whereas these streets are in the 40.
Up by Beaver Park,
They're more.
They're wider, but not by 19.
From 34th on.
Why?
No, because I'll give you an option. One of the things that we've just, and this is, we throw out to the neighborhood, is Second Avenue. You've got a lot of width on Second Avenue. You've got no parking on one side of Second Avenue. What if we reintroduce parking on that side of Second Avenue as part of the conversion? Another option that we look at is, what if we want to take this and create a boulevard section down the middle, similar to like Blake or Grand? That's certainly an option, and one of the things that would help is you can put some landscaping in. You can put kind of low-level crossings where you can still cross, at a few locations. Yeah, it certainly does. Friction is what slows traffic. Trees create friction. Parked cars create friction. Narrower lanes create friction. That's the other thing, is we're looking at making we're looking at trying to create friction, and bike lanes they slow traffic too when you have bikes.
As long as we still have parking, because parking here.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's one of the advantages we have out here is, we have such wide avenues that there's the flexibility of putting in parking on both sides, or doing other treatments like, I mentioned, if you wanted to make this look more with the boulevard in the middle, you could still have one lane restriction, and you'd get the beauty of having a landscaped area down the middle. It'd be more of a... Yeah.
That conflict of that.
How do you facilitate around buses? Is that something we have input to?
Absolutely.
Let's go back there.
Is there any considerations for the flow of emergency vehicles? Because there's a lot of heavy traffic down 3rd Avenue to get to this area from the police department and such.
All the emergency.
And if you're trying to slow down traffic, which I think definitely needs to be addressed, but the restrictions that you're considering, I think, would also impact the emergency vehicle spotting as well, especially during high traffic times of day.
During peak time, and I don't know. I mean, we see a lot of traffic and a lot of rain. Sorry, I won't know. We see a lot of numbers, and really the traffic problems in Cedar Rapids, at least the peak traffic where we have the most, are really confined to about a half hour to an hour in the morning and a half hour to an hour in the evening. So really 22 to 23 hours out of the day, we're pretty good. We find a good tree.
It's not lightning.
The part that's not being considered are the people that even have driveways. I mean, now you're going to have 2 lane traffic, parked cars, and a lot more traffic.
Yeah, not everybody has a driveway or a garage.
No.
I guess the one thing I would, and I always hate to disagree, is I really don't think you're going to see a lot of additional traffic.
You can't foresee the future. So here's the thing. You're giving us speculation without any facts to back up.
But are you guys giving us facts about the future?
I've lived in the neighborhood 18 years, crying out loud.
We are a fragile neighborhood.
Yes.
But we are the best and the most healthy and stable part of a very fragile neighborhood. We have made significant investments here, and we care about what happened. When the city did 2nd Avenue, they did it without a traffic impact study. I went and stood in front of city council and asked them, please do a neighborhood impact study. You are messing with a neighborhood that is, we're doing the best that we can, but we cannot hold it up by ourselves. And we got nowhere. We got really almost the finger. So in a way, I feel like we're being really nice and very civil. But we live here, and we're going to live here for a long time. And so the last thing that we want is the city to come in and make our situation worse than it is now. What we want is for you to help us make it better. If the change has to come, it needs to come with everybody saying, okay, I'm in. And there has to be some benefit for us in this too.
Yeah, but I don't know that you're ever going to get everybody to say they're in, you know what I mean?
Right, agree.
No, but
There's always.
Yeah.
But on top of that, a lot of us have sewage in our basements too, so we're fighting 2 fronts right now, and it's very frustrating.
And I just, I didn't say that to make you guys defensive. I just was trying to portray. I mean, I have a vested interest in this too. I've lived in the city for 15 years. I live in the city.
You live around here?
I don't live in here. No, I don't. But I do have a vested interest because I don't want to make my job any more difficult than I have to. So I want to work with the residents to try to come up with a solution. Just like if somebody was coming down on my street, I'd take that. So I'm trying to provide you with my professional opinion. You may not agree with it, and that's fine.
There was I think the city council realizes that the brothers, would have done PCIs. I don't think different when I first
You guys showed up.
There would be neighborhood being took over.
I didn't know it was going to rain this time.
I didn't know it was going to rain at all.
So I've been in Cedar Rapids now for, let's see, I'm 44 years old, born and raised here. Lived in Green Valley back in the day when they wanted to put Green Valley and Old Post Road, and Mount Vernon Road is one street. So that was the top. We fought that for 20 years.
I know this had brought umbrellas.
Larry Helby, Dr. Helby. I had board of directors and more hospitals. Brain surgeons because of the road. They didn't put the road in because of different selling businesses. But that was potentially devastating that neighborhood. I'm concerned that we're going to take a neighborhood and we're going to eventually turn this into an industrial area because the business is moving this way. If our homes are not moving this way, it's going to help. It just keeps coming up here, and I don't want to see another vehicle totaled in front of my house that I don't have the money to go buy a brand new vehicle.
Or more rentals in a neighborhood of owner-occupied single-family homes. You know, the city just cannot afford to lose us.
Well, I guess. What do you guys think to it? What do you think to it? Should we leave it the same?
No, I like what you're suggesting. I think it's going to help.
I think we should leave it the same. Controlled.
I'm still not clear about what you're trying to solve, though. Is it just speed?
I'm going to give you my professional opinion again, and you won't like it, but is that we have neighborhoods all over the city where we have neighborhood traffic control or speeding issues, people that have people speeding through the neighborhood, and it's very difficult to do with enforcement. I know you all probably have called the police, and we've called the police and said we have neighborhoods that they're complaining about speeding.
And we get nowhere.
They show up, and there's really people slow down, and then the police go away, and then the problem comes back.
Right, they can't be there every day.
Right. So the thing
means they're not. I mean, what you do is you have one person, not with a big billboard that says I'm the police. You have somebody down 2 blocks.
Hey, we got a nice neighbor that offered her porch.
Do you guys want to go for the porch?
Walk on the porch.
We're already wet.
Can we only impact the execution of it, or can we impact whether it happens or not?
I don't think any decision is made until the construction starts.
Have we met our city leaders?
My opinion.
It's been made.
What has been presented is the conversion. So as of right now, yes, the conversion is starting. It's already started with the PCI conversion. The next piece is going to be, at least right now that I see, is they're proposing from 6th Street Southwest to 1st Street East is the next piece of the conversion. What's proposed, at least been presented to council right now, like I said earlier, is to do this piece in 2017. So it'd be 2 years, roughly 2 years from now,
Is it
maybe
just
3
speeding
years.
you're trying to solve?
No.
What are you trying to
No,
solve?
it's traffic flow.
It's traffic
It's a
flow.
traffic
Because of
flow.
Second Avenue.
And it's really between 6th Street and 10th Street is where like I said, the downtown area is kind of what has been driving in terms of access coming in to and from downtown, and again, like going back and forth trying to look at how they improve that, and every consultant has come in and said convert the one ways to, to two ways downtown.
First Avenue can't handle the traffic.
Yeah.
But we were assured when they made that change that there was significant
First Avenue could
capacity,
handle.
For First Avenue.
that this was not an issue. And so now, just exactly what we worried about has come.
And now they got to fix it.
And just as a note, they're taking out all the stoplights downtown too, and they're going to be converted to stop signs. All of them.
Are they going to be putting stop signs along 2nd Avenue and stuff?
No, that's not
because
part
of
of
the long
proposal
gaps
yet,
and everything
right
for
now.
speed and stuff. Because there's a long gap between 19th and going down all the way down there.
And that's where we can, as part of the plan, that's where we can look at what are the things that we can do to help address. If speeding is an issue with the neighborhood, it sounds like it is.
Yeah.
That's something that we need to work with you guys as far as come up with solutions that can help reduce the
I'm thinking like 6-foot speed bump. Pretty much. I mean, you got to go one way or the other.
Well, it's still going to provide better access to the neighborhood for the people that want to get in to and from the neighborhood. I mean, by doing the conversion. The other thing too is it just. Well,
I have to come around. I live on the corner of 3rd and 19th. When I go downtown, I have to go down. I don't care if I go down. I don't care if I have to go down. It's not a big deal.
If you go to the High V, it's on 61st Avenue and 16th, and you want to get back to the neighborhood, if you can come up 2nd Avenue to get to your house if you live here, right?
I don't know if that's a big enough benefit, though. I think is what we're saying in order to understand the change. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Well, it's again from it's difficult to, because we've seen in areas where you leave confusing, where you have different types of traffic control, and you've got one way here, two way here, that the crashes will go up because, again, people will expect traffic coming from just one direction, and then now you got traffic from both directions.
Down by the church.
Or if you go to 3rd Avenue and then you see
it's horrible.
It's going to happen. Yeah. Well, you get people that are driving. You're going to get more people that are going to be driving the wrong way on the street if this is the only one that's left as a one-way street.
Well, I have to say that since the PCI conversion, I've noticed the amount of traffic on this street is about a quarter of what it used to be. So by you saying increasing access, you mean increasing the amount of traffic on the street?
Yes.
Well, no, I'm saying increases access for the people that want to come to the neighborhood. I mean, basically the people that live here. That's who's going to benefit the most from the increased access. Because I guess, and this is just, as a person that drives down 1st Avenue, why would I drive 1st Avenue quite often. I mean, we have to go to different parts of the city to get to places. I don't take a little side trip down 2nd Avenue to continue out on 1st Avenue. I stay on 1st Avenue. I mean, because to me that's...
Why do the cops and the ambulances? Because it's faster.
And there's less traffic.
3rd Avenue traffic has probably increased.
Oh, yeah.
But the 2nd Avenue has decreased dramatically.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's
It's effectively like a cul-de-sac with a few little, I mean, it's not really, but you know what I'm saying? It's like it doesn't go anywhere.
Well, I'll be perfectly honest. I mean, since I've been with the city, moved here, I mean, 3rd Avenue has always been known by anybody that works for the city that with the signals on there, the progression is fairly good. That 3rd Avenue is always faster than going out to 1st Avenue. But that will change with the conversion because you'll get more going to one lane in each direction through downtown. And one of the other proposals is to look at putting just in the 5-block area of downtown, so between 1st Street and 5th Street, and not 1st Avenue, but 2nd Avenue to 5th Avenue, looking at taking the signals out. That area down there is going to be more congested, so you won't have people you probably have less people that potentially that could be going through downtown and using 3rd Avenue as the express route to get out to 19.
So at rush hour, we don't have one lane of traffic instead of the two that we have right now.
Correct.
So we're trying to plummet the
That's my thing. I live on 3rd Avenue.
and it's busy now one time a day.
Yeah.
And how much is the traffic going to increase with it being two-way? Now is it going to be busy all day long? I don't want to be and just living on 19th Street.
Which way would you rather travel? Come up 3rd Avenue or stay on 1st Avenue? Because you got lights that you have to hit.
You're going to zip up 3rd.
I'd rather zip up 3rd Avenue and
that's my concern. I don't want to end up living on 19th Street, Mount Vernon Road.
Exactly.
Would help a lot. As you're thinking it's a two-way and if it's residential, how about reducing the speed limit from 30 to 25 and how about some stop signs? That's what you would expect in a residential neighborhood.
And that's, those are the things that we need to look at and we need to, address is, understanding that these both 2nd and 3rd Avenue are neighborhood streets. I mean, yes.
Kids that play out in the yard that lose balls.
And I really
play out in the street.
And there's been, I guess, one thing that the city council has done is they've really emphasized that, they just passed a complete streets policy that we need to look at all users, that's pedestrians, bikes, and vehicle traffic, and they're in favor of that's why we're talking about narrowing streets. Very few streets are we talking about widening because the council's emphasis is we need to do more with our streets. We need to think about the neighborhood issues and think about, you know, pedestrian safety and bicycle safety, and that's why, you know, we just initiated our first traffic calming project in Brentwood, because there is more of an emphasis on basically looking at neighborhood issues and trying to address them the best we can. And I think talking to you guys is very helpful, because we can understand hone in on exactly what we need to address, and do our best to, you know, to try to work with you to come up with a good solution.
Yeah, and I think part of the problem is we've had experience with the city council before and the departments in the city. Had we not asked for this meeting, we would not have known about it.
I didn't even
We
know.
wouldn't have had any neighborhood meetings about this. It would have been, the trucks would have shown up, and the work would have started.
I didn't know. You know, I guess, and I think that's part of it, is that I guess I didn't know what you were trying to solve, or that you were even planning to do some kind of conversion. So let me ask you this: what are the next steps in respect to hearing feedback from the folks that live in this neighborhood around the decisions that maybe have or have not been made?
Great question. And how do we stay engaged in the process?
Well, I guess one of the first things I'll do, and this is something I don't disagree that the city does a horrible job of communicating, you know, from time to time, and it's difficult. I mean, a city this size,
Try all the
this
time.
size, it's difficult. We have a tough time communicating sometimes within ourselves. You know,
It would never happen.
Well, you know, the city has hired on a communications division, which their sole responsibility is to develop the public relations, the communication that these departments like public works or water utilities, you know, that haven't been done. We've had a gap in the communication. We know what the projects are. Getting the us engineers are not really that good at communicating on lay terms, but the public works staff that they've hired, they've embedded basically a communications person in each of the major departments with a team person that kind of coordinates all of the communication. And the idea is to get those public relations communications folks to work with us to develop meaningful and understandable communication on these topics that come up. Whether
How do we find this person? Are these people?
Well, we can, if we can get some email addresses, we can certainly, you know, provide their names.
Yeah, I'll get, Emily is the person that's
Emily
in public
Muehlbach?
works, yeah, and we can get her plugged in, and like I said,
Yes.
we can get some email addresses or contact information, then we can start the process of kind of giving you guys continual updates on where we're at with the project. And I think you know, from the turnout we had today, I think it makes sense that we need to have more neighborhood meetings with you guys and kind of walk through this whole process and try to treat it as kind of an iterative process where we start somewhere and then we say, all right, we like this, we don't like this, what else can we change or look to modify, and you know, try to come up. I don't think we're all going to agree on everything, but at least come up with something that a majority of us can agree on and move forward with. And
Can I try to maybe summarize something here, which the city's interested in increased access, but that doesn't necessarily translate to increased traffic. Is that correct?
Yeah, I don't know if increased access.
Well, you said better access.
I think right now that's just an advantage of a two-way street over a one-way street. Is it provides better connectivity in terms of gives people more options. And actually, when you give people more options, the traffic sometimes tends to disperse. So if they have more options, people tend to, you know.
But you have to remember that 3rd Avenue is an option to 1st Avenue right now, and I think what people are generally afraid of is that this is going to become an even better option.
Speedway.
Than
Right.
1st
That's
Avenue.
if you buy-
So I'm wondering
Yeah,
if we can address that issue as it relates to access, but try to maybe disincentivize people from using it as a better alternative to 1st Avenue as a transitory route between, you know, this area from like downtown to, you know, way over on Mount Vernon Road, because I think that's what we're talking about. If you want to have access to the neighborhood, that's fine. But what I think we're all sort of somewhat against and afraid of are people ripping through here?
They are now.
They are now.
I know, but
Right, you're right.
but I'm
You're
saying
absolutely right.
We don't want to make that
It's gonna get worse.
and we'd much rather have it go the opposite direction. And I understand that your objective is to calm traffic, right, and to do that, but I think, what we're afraid of is that you have some of these ideas related to calming by compressing things, and, I'm not sure. I think if there were more, I don't know, stop signs, roundabouts, whatever, some way to sort of disincentivize people from just using it as a throughway, I think would probably alleviate a lot of people's concerns. I don't think we're opposed to a two-way by nature.
Sure.
I think it's just becoming more of a freeway through the neighborhood that we're trying to avoid.
It needs to be less convenient than First Avenue. Otherwise, we're going to. It will be. If there's no turning lane, it will be less convenient.
Yeah.
Because you'll have people.
They'll just pick another side street like mine.
The heavy traffic we're worried about, but it's going to be less convenient.
If Third Avenue had as many stop lights as First Avenue does, from 19th down to, they wouldn't, nobody'd speed through here. Nobody would turn on here as opposed to First unless they're headed someplace just right off Third Avenue. I mean, it's right now they speed down, and a stop sign doesn't do it, because I live on the corner and they slide up and they don't really stop and they just slide right on through.
I think you'd be surprised at the speed through these neighborhoods. I really think you'd be surprised. It's horrible.
Can you do
a speed thing?
Not only a speed check with your little thing at the top, but a traffic check at the top of 30 at Linden Drive, right where it comes into Third, and
Like the intersection.
count
Count.
of how many people are coming through Linden, and then how many people are leaving at night on Thursday. And I think you're astounded.
That's like.
But I mean, I think that has to be like PCI.
Right, and they did do an extensive traffic study when they did the PCI conversion.
But we use PCI.
PCI did the study.
They did the study. We did not.
They did the study.
We know that for a fact.
We were there.
We took their study.
We were there the night that the city council accepted it, and I said, hold on just a
Let's
moment.
do our own, and they said no.
We would
We're
like
not
our
trying
own
to.
neighborhood impact study here, because we're the people who are going to have problems as a result of these changes. And they just said, go sit down, lady, we're not really...
Just like they're telling us our sewer problem is our problem and not the city's.
Well, there's also nothing they can do about that. Not only
I
is that
understand that,
passed,
but there's everything that the city could have done about it. They know that they did, that they made a big fat old mess, and we shouldn't do it again.
But
So
that's
I
those
think what we're
city
asking you is, let's not do that again. This time, let's engage everybody in the process. Yeah.
I get that.
So it's not directed at you.
Yeah.
It's
Yep.
take the message back, please.
Let me make a suggestion. My name is Robin Cash, and probably a lot of you have gotten little notes stuck in your door this summer about the historic districts, 2nd and 3rd Avenue, and Grand and Redmond. And part of my interest is to get the historic districts organized so we can sort out issues like this and other issues that affect us. And so we've had at least one meeting back in July, and I'm hoping to have another such meeting later in October, probably sometime in the second half. And I'll put a notice in the Wellington Times and the newsletter about that. And so if there's interest in following up on this discussion and other issues that affect the historic districts and also we're part of the larger neighborhood, then I would invite you to consider, coming to that gathering so we can try to air these things and have a continuing forum to help us work things out so that we're not just working on an ad hoc basis with the two gentlemen from the city. And I think it's really great that Don and Kate got this together, but if we can get a consistent voice going here and kind of know where we stand and have some agreement, then I think we can have a bigger impact with the city.
Well said.
Yeah, good idea. Are there any, are there plans that we could see that, so if we were going to invite people from the city to come to a meeting, Is there like some conceptual information that could be presented that I think would help us get our heads around what's going on?
Sure. So we've got an overall plan, and we've got actually more detailed drawings. I mean, everything's still conceptual because it hasn't, normally what happens is that, there's an idea that's thrown out there, and then, okay, get traffic involved, and we'll come and take a look at it and put together some concepts, and then either the concepts sit around for a while and nothing happens, or they move forward. And this is one that right now is scheduled to move forward. So.
And the details are what make or break these projects. It's the concept plans are looking at a higher level. Like if we're going to take 2nd and 3rd Avenue, 1 lane each direction, and bike lanes on 3rd. That's a nice starting point. At least you kind of have an idea what the overall idea is. But then it's also then going block by block, driveway by driveway, and just with your help in knowing how the traffic flow is, and we would be doing traffic, I guess I'm speaking, but typically we have traffic counters out here to actually document what the traffic flow is today, even the speeds, so we get some idea, and then sit down and go through the details. Okay, by Redmond Park, for instance, okay, 1 lane each direction, bike lanes. Okay, what kind of activity we have crossing that location? Are there some key points that really need to be enhanced to enhance the pedestrian crossing so it's much more safe, regardless if it's an amber light or a hawk signal? What else can be done physically to slow that traffic down? And this is a point of pedestrian priority. And those are the things that need to be discussed from the residents and work with staff. And some of the decision makers are very interested in this, in getting the, knowing what's going on in the interaction. But the details are what make or break these projects. If we miss something and it comes out after the fact,
And that's where you guys are so key, because somebody said, well, how don't you know that? We don't live here 365 days, 24 hours,
Should you do a better job of research then?
Let me just explain, is when we do traffic count, we go out and do a traffic count. It's unfortunately, based on the resources that we have, it's 1 day or maybe 2 days out of a 365 day a year. Now we have historical trends that say this is the best day to do it, time of week and time of day, but in terms of, traffic counts, generally you'll have a traffic counter out here for a couple of days. That doesn't describe, it gives you a small picture, which usually is pretty typical of the day, but that's where we need to hear from you to say, is this typical or is this not typical? And it helps us to kind of validate some of our assumptions, or maybe it throws out some of our assumptions.
And the traffic counts only tell you really the speed and the number of vehicles. It doesn't tell you if there's something out on the street or there's a visibility issue that tends to cause maybe a bigger potential for a crash, or a change in the movement of traffic because there's something up ahead, like parked cars on one side now, so the traffic is shifting. Those are the details that you folks know about that don't show up when we do these counts. Now, like I said, we get volumes and speed, but if there's little nuances in the traffic flow, or there's issues coming out at certain side streets, or there's pedestrian crossings that little details that you understand and see on a daily basis, unless we're going to camp out there and sit there for long lengths of time, that's why these meetings are important. And that's where your input then helps us come up with other options to address those issues and discuss those again. So for instance, at Redmond, if it means that we bulb out the curves, to narrow that up tight, you're coming up to an area you got sidewalk curves that are
smashing into them.
Well, but
like what you did on Beaver, right?
Beaver, right. Is that probably safer for pedestrians than having them cross 3-4 lanes of traffic when it's all one direction and the flow's going 35, 40? And that doesn't. And with the 1 lane each direction, there may be times where more all-way stops are warranted. Right now you've got 3-4 lanes of traffic. The volumes are, just say it's 3,000 cars a day. If you narrow that down to 1 lane each direction, it is more concentrated. The flow would be slower.
And maybe because maybe there's fewer gaps in those side streets, maybe that does warrant an all-way stop now, where you didn't have that ability before because you had all these extra lanes of traffic.
I'd like to apologize, I wasn't here at the time, but I missed a lot, but every time I try to go downtown, I cuss out the city for that medical building down there.
We all do.
The result of that was we have a pretty quiet street.
Yes, about 5 cars
And
in an
apparently that
hour.
irritates the city because now they want to do, I don't need any increased access. I can get to my house great the way it is. So I don't know what's really driving this, but overall, it's a great street right now, but I don't think it's going to remain great.
If they change the second area, it's not going to change much with traffic because there's a big road block there.
And it'll change third.
Third will become pretty busy.
Cut down all the traffic on Third and cut it as a cut, you know, if you think that you're going to keep traffic coming from downtown, where are they going to go to get out from downtown? First Avenue?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the only way out.
First Avenue, 8th Avenue.
But-
You're still going to have people on. You're still going to have people on Third Avenue.
And we need to watch and see how many of them are in the left-hand lane that turn to first from our place as we come up from town. Because if you only have no turn lane.
I would guess a lot of people on Third Avenue are making that turn. Like I said, the way it's set up now with the signals through downtown, that is a faster route there, and you've got plenty of lanes right now. We're talking about taking away the 20 lanes, making it slower, making it more congested, making it more residential, adding in bikes, you know, trying to put in calming elements.
I thought
to
you
help
said
that.
that you were taking away the turn lane too.
He said that.
You
That's what he
said
said.
taking away the turn lane, and how are people going to turn? I mean, that
At
makes
the
it so hard to
intersection,
see.
when you get to 19th, where you have a signal, you're probably going to still have a left turn lane there at 19th. I'm pretty sure
They
it's
have a
still
left
wider.
and a right.
But you're
It's
still
wider.
gonna-
You probably won't have the right. You'll probably
Yeah.
have at least the left turn. That's
They'll be
there.
up nice.
Although if you didn't, nobody would want to take it to go left. They'd want to get on First Avenue, and that would slow traffic down and reduce the volume.
I mean, I think the other thing that we can do.
They don't want to wait
is-
at the light to
is-
turn right on it right now. They cut up Ridgewood.
Yeah, they do.
I know. There's only
They see the light. They can see the light, and then they cut
They
out.
just turn, and they're
Yeah.
blaring up there.
I'll throw this out there. Ridgewood Terrace is one of our problem locations with the conversion. One of the options is to close it off.
Hey, God, go ahead. We've been asking for that for years.
So, I mean, those are the things that we need to talk about. I mean, those are the things that we have to look at as part of the conversion is, there's things that we need to change because that street intersects so closely, and my mind is slipping me the street, another street that's right there.
Like,
And that's
diagonal.
That's the problem is that you have those two streets coming.
We have a W right now.
Right, and that's right now it's challenging with one ways to be able to negotiate that. Now throw in two ways, and it's almost impossible. So those are the things that where we're
And
looking
only
for
one
ideas.
car
to do
does go down that street at a time. You cannot get two cars because none of us have garages except maybe two neighbors on that street. And no, you can't force two cars down that street unless you tell me that the house that I own, not rent, bought and paid for, I have to build a garage. Then I can't. The house is the garage. It's a garage. So I mean, you're just that concerns me. And there's kids. There's all these little kids running around.
But if they close off that street.
Oh, that would be fine, but it doesn't solve your problem.
Nope.
Do you know what I mean? It doesn't save the kid that lives next door to you.
No, I
You
understand.
know, I mean, I just.
But again, you're creating disincentives for people to use that as just.
Oh, yeah, no. They're just going to go somewhere else, though. That part.
But there are streets that are built for that.
Yeah.
Like First Avenue, like 10th Street, like Mount Vernon Road,
Mm-hmm.
like unfortunately 19th Street.
So how do we move forward then to ensure that we have these conversations or
Two-way conversation.
you know, have a voice, because even if it's a project that's been approved, and maybe from what you've said here tonight, it sounds like there could be some ability for us to have some input as it relates to what some of the mechanisms and methods you use to control this. So what do we do next? You know?
I think, like we said, one will go back to the communication person, the public works, and we'd like to get your contact information, email address, and so forth, so we can make sure we stay in better communication with you guys. The next thing is I think try to have another meeting, and maybe we find a location inside. I hate to roll out plans and ruin them. You know?
Oh, Chucky darn.
Yeah. And really start honing in on some of these, neighborhood issues and start looking at the lines on the pavement and seeing how we can adjust them and maybe what things we can do differently and where, kind of circle the problem areas and all right, we need to go back and revisit this one. And we get a lot of neighborhood requests and unfortunately it is challenging to deal with neighborhood issues in terms of speeding. Speeding is one of the biggest problems we deal with, and we realize that parking is extremely important, too, for neighborhoods. It just is, and especially in the older neighborhoods, it's even more important because a lot of the older neighborhoods weren't designed to accommodate 3-4 cars like today's society. So it's really a difficult balance for us to deal with because there's always a compromise in there somewhere. But the more that we talk to you, the hopefully the better decisions we can make. And so I would, I'll go back and we'll see if we can't. We've got enough information that we can probably try to set up another meeting next month and actually show you what we've got, in terms of plans, and that way you have all the information we've got at this point.
And someone can articulate really what you're trying to solve by doing these things. Because I think I'm still fuzzy on truly what you're trying to solve other than downtown. So I mean, I guess it's because of the conversion that's taking place downtown to improve the access within downtown. It's difficult to leave stretches of one-ways on the outside of that. And in order to address the speeding issues that we're talking about in terms of all the additional traffic on 3rd Avenue, the speeding issues on 3rd Avenue, one of the things to do is two-way will slow the traffic down. It will. So it sounds to me then like outcomes to that may not be beneficial to the people that own property.
The other downside is, a gentleman referred to this, is that there are more conflict points. So that's a downside. An upside is the traffic calming.
I know the traffic has to go somewhere. I get it. I mean, I understand the pieces around it. I guess what I just want to make sure is that, from someone who has only lived here for a year, in this specific place, I lived on the south side for 20 years. So, for someone who's only lived here for a year, it's a little disconcerting because I feel like I'm not getting an understanding really of what just changing these 2 roads is going to really do. How that buys any benefit because people are just going to be avoiding First Avenue by coming down my street. And I guess that's why and maybe I just need to understand what the people are recommending and what they're saying is really the real good benefit to coming in and out of downtown. And maybe it's just an understanding.
Would you agree that based the way the street is today, that people are bypassing First Avenue today?
Yes, they are.
Yes, but this is going to make it easier and increase that amount of traffic. That's our concern. We already live with what we've got.
Right.
You're about to multiply it.
Right.
Well, I thought I heard that they would be happier if they could accomplish more of a residential feel for 2nd and 3rd. And
you have 3 lanes.
Wouldn't you prefer 8th and 1st to be the thoroughfares?
We prefer it, but I don't think it's going to change.
So you have 3 lanes on each of those streets today, correct? Right. And we're talking about going from 3 lanes to 2 lanes. So
1 in each direction.
Right, 1 in
But all
each
day
direction.
long.
But all day long.
Not just in the morning.
Right now, I have an hour that I don't know to beware.
Correct.
Don't go outside and get
And you're
your car.
about to turn it into,
24 hours a day.
If we look at the traffic on First Avenue and look at the traffic it's not all day on First Avenue. The congestion's not all day on First Avenue. I mean, so it drops off like the neighborhood drops off.
I think that all the people in Cedar Rapids who are accustomed to going down 2nd and 3rd, right now, I have lived in this neighborhood for 30 years. And so I always go down 2nd Avenue, and it's just a force of habit now. I still go down 2nd Avenue, and I get down to the end and I go, Urgh! So now this is going to be 2-way, and I can go down 3rd Avenue, which is where I live. So nobody's going to be down here. So all the traffic that is accustomed to going down 2nd is not going to shift over to 30.
It is.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Nobody is
Third's
going to
be a
use
thoroughfare
this
now.
street.
But if you're down
But
at one lane, if your traffic,
They're still going to go. But you're going to have they might slow down.
I think
but you're
this is
gonna
where we
that
have the
amount of
disagreement.
traffic.
These guys are suggesting that two-way traffic is going to slow the traffic. There may be more of it.
I
It'll
don't.
be
I
going
honestly,
slower.
unless they put true lights that people are forced to stop, they're not going to stop. If it's straight all the way
If it's a
down,
straight shot, that's
they're going to go. They are going to go. Well, but then
no,
lights
makes
have their own problems too, because then you've got people sitting idling outside
Idling
your
outside your house,
bedroom
45
window.
seconds is too long.
I mean, all these things are
Everything
trade-offs,
is a trade-off, that's right.
and that's where we're trying to find the happy. I don't know if there's going to be a happy medium, but we're trying to find the.
Why isn't leave well enough alone?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because the conversion has already started, and the conversion is.
Okay, so I have a concern. Yeah.
Well, they can, but what's going to happen is that you're still going to have the speeding problem with the 3 lanes that you have on 3rd Avenue.
But there's other ways to address that.
There are.
So that's really not a showstopper for staying the way we are.
Correct, but you still, but then you, so that you're correct. The speeding problem can be addressed by narrowing the roadway and going down to 1 lane.
Not like that.
Well, generally you don't put in lights or stop signs to address speeding problems because what happens is people tend to not ignore them.
They need to fix the problem with closing 2nd Avenue, basically, is what this comes down to.
So that's not going to happen.
Right. But by opening 3rd, you'll now have two-way traffic on 3rd instead
Can we
of
build another
one-way, two-way, one-way, two-way, one-way, two-way.
Can we just put a bridge over
I mean, the first plan turned out so well.
Oh, well, you know, PCI
For them, it did, yeah.
I think that's part of my question is why are we well enough? Why do we actually change that?
I think it makes sense to
regroup.
maybe
I mean,
a chance to
I
regroup.
understand if you want to change downtown, but I see downtown as a completely separate
Yeah,
road.
and once you get past 10, you're in residential.
Look at the issues you brought up about 3rd Avenue being two-way for that one stretch, and it's confusing.
Take it back to the way it was.
Absolutely. You go down to PCI and you come back up on 3rd.
Yeah.
You're just compounding the impact of PCI by doing
4th and 5th are going to get it too.
Yeah.
They're going to have an increased amount of traffic.
No.
I use 4th to go downtown now.
They're narrower.
They're narrower,
They're
but
much narrower.
they're going to lose their parking too.
Lots of
Oh
stuff.
boy,
They're going to have no place to park.
Part of what I liked about this street is the size.
I mean, this is why they say you need to communicate better here because, I mean, they did actually go to the 4th Avenue neighborhood, but they're not losing their parking on 4th Avenue.
Oh, yeah. Part of what I liked about this neighborhood, though, is there's a wide street. There is parking. It's a beautiful
They're
street.
wide, beautiful avenues.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
They are.
it's what Cedar Rapids used to be known.
And they're not going to be. That's the way it is.
So, yeah, it would be great to have another meeting, and I think you're right. We should have one inside where we can access to like protection so that we can look at the plan. And I assume that can happen at City Hall maybe, or send them to
I mean, a lot of times we try to
well, I think it would be easier if we could.
Would it be better at City Hall? We don't have a problem with doing it down at Public Works. Would be we have a new large meeting room there at the City Services Center that just opened up. I mean,
the one
1st Avenue Police Station.
where you get the building permit, is that the city?
There's a meeting room there.
Not enough room.
Not enough.
would everybody be okay with making the trip down to the City Hall?
We could meet in one of the churches in the neighborhood too.
We could meet in the church, yeah.
You know, like I
We
said,
could, but we
oftentimes
wouldn't have
we
any
do.
projection. So if they were going to show us that
We could bring a projector. That wouldn't.
I want to say thank you.
That's the other one.
Yeah, thank
Very
you.
much for talking to us. I know it's kind of a bad.
not a nice
No, this is fine. I mean, I don't mind discussion. I don't. You know, and I'm not going to. I'm not going to miss my words. I mean, Brandon and I, you know, I'm going to give you my professional opinion just based on
because
my
they don't let us
experience.
off the interstate
I've been
fast enough.
practicing in traffic
And
engineering
they
for
have
40
this
years.
huge lane.
Many people have lived in this neighborhood for 40 years, so we all have experience in our own areas, and I think we all have valuable input in the process.
Well, I appreciate you came and talked to us.
Well, thanks for coming.